All right, 4.6. We're going to start with the square root of x equals 5. Okay. So, how do we undo a square root? Square it. So we square both sides. Oops. Square both sides, and I get that cancels. X equals 25. Not too bad, right? Let's make it a little bit harder. Let's do the square root of x plus 1 equals 3. Do we have to worry about plus or minus in this case? No, because is the square root of negative 25 equal to 5? No. So we don't need a plus or minus, but I'm glad you brought that up because it's something we have to look into. Okay? It's not exactly that. It's a little bit different, but we definitely need to look into it. Okay? So what is the first thing that happens to the x here? It gets added to 1, and then the square root happens. So we're just going to peel this onion back from the outside in. So square both sides. That cancels. X plus 1 equals 9. We subtract 1, and I get x equals 8. Okay, easy enough? Okay, what if I had the square root of 2x minus 3 equals, let's say negative 5. Okay. What do we do? Square both sides. That cancels. And I get 2x minus 3 equals 25. Plus 3. 2x equals 28. Divide by 2. And I get x equals 14. Everybody good? That's wrong. I'm not good. I didn't trick you, but nobody caught the mistake. It's no solution. Yeah, no solution. Now, can anybody tell me why? So, I can't take that away. The square root of 2x minus 3 equals negative 5. Let's think about that for a second. What happens when I square root a positive number? It's positive. Okay, no problem. What if I square root 0? It's 0, right? What if I square root a negative number? What happens? It becomes an I, and more specifically, a positive I. Do you see the problem? Zane? What's the problem? It's not that. So none of these are negative. It is impossible to square root a number and get a negative. So it can't happen. It's not, the answer isn't imaginary. There simply is no answer. Have you ever run into an equation that had no answer before? Well, we've had imaginary answers, and for a long time you just said they don't exist, and then we invented imaginary numbers to fill the void. But in this case, there is no number that does that. Another example of an equation with no answer would be this. Two x plus 1 is equal to 2x plus 3. The only way for that to work, if I subtract 2x and subtract 2x, 1 would have to be equal to 3, and that's not true. Okay? So sometimes you can write an equation that simply has no solution. And this is one of them. Okay? And watch what happens when I plug 14 in. 2 times 14 is 28. 28 minus 3 is 25. Is the square root of 25 equal to negative 5? No, it's equal to positive 5. So anytime you are doing a radical equation, which means you have a variable inside a square root, you have to check to see, is that equation even possible? Now, what if it was a third root? What if this was a 3? Can a third root equal -5? Yeah, it could. That'd be fine. What about a fourth root? No. Now, graphically, what's going on? So, a square root graph looks like this. So, that can get moved around and shifted and flipped and look like lots of stuff. So, maybe it ends up looking like this. But over here, there is no graph. There are a whole bunch of numbers that simply don't exist. I cannot find an x value that I can plug into that. Now, what about, so those are both square root graphs. What do cubed root graphs look like? They're like an x to the third, only sideways. So they would look like this. Is that missing any points? No, it goes forever in both directions. So that's why. So square roots and fourth roots, we have to be careful. Cubed roots and fifth roots, we don't. Right? So, what about this? The square root of 2x minus 4 plus 3 equals let's do minus 3 equals -1. Does that have an answer? The -3 is not. So this goes to here. But it equals -1. I'm taking the square root of some number and then subtracting 3. So if I move this to the other side, can the square root of 2x minus 4 equal 2? Yeah, that's totally fine. Okay. So what if I had 3 square root of 1 minus x plus 6 equals 5? Does that have an answer? No, it doesn't. Why? If I subtract 5, 3 square root of 1 minus x equals -1, and I divide by 3, can the square root of 1 minus x be equal to -1/3? No, impossible. All right. So, okay. Does this exist? Yes. So to solve, I square both sides, and I get w minus 8 equals 49. Subtract 8, w equals 41. Okay, simple enough. Okay, what about this? Does that exist? Why? Can a square root equal a square root? Right, a square root cannot be negative. So I know whatever happens over here is not negative. It could be positive, it could be 0, and it could be an I, but it's not negative. And what do I know about this side? It's also not negative. Can a non-negative number equal a non-negative number? Yes. So, how do I solve that? Square both sides, which has the effect of just getting rid of the square roots. So 2v plus 15 equals 4v plus 3, and then we just solve. Minus 3. So 12 equals 2v. v equals 6. Okay. I should have won the razor. I'm sad. You guys missed it. I ugly cried all night. Okay. Does that have an answer? Yes, because When I move that 1 to the other side, it's still positive. So we would subtract 1, and then what? Square it, add 12, and then divide 3. All right. Okay, what about this? Does that have an answer? Are you sure? I'm not so sure that has an answer. So let's solve and see what happens. So I square both sides. So x squared equals the square root, or not square root, 8x minus 12. That looks like a quadratic. So we're going to move everything to the left. X squared minus 8x plus 12. How does that factor? X minus 2 and x minus 6. So I get x equals 2 and 6. What do you think? That is the answer, but why are those answers okay? Look at the original equation. If I put a 2 here, am I okay? Can a square root equal 2? Yeah. What if I put a 6 here? Am I okay? Yeah. What if my equation was x squared minus 2x minus 12? Or not 12, 8. What would that be? X minus 4 and x plus 2. So what are my roots? 4 and negative 2. What do you think? Just 4. Negative 2 is not allowed. So does this have an answer? As long as it's positive. Now what if my formula was x minus 5 equals some square root? And then I do the math, and I get x squared, let's say, minus 2x minus 24. How does that factor? X minus 6 and x plus 4. So I get x equals 6 and negative 4. Are those okay? 6 is, but negative 4 isn't. What if it was a positive 4? Would positive 4 be okay? Look carefully. 4 is not okay. If I put a 4 here, it's still negative on that left side, and that would break the equation. So anytime you have a radical with a variable on the inside, you always need to double check, is this answer possible? Now, what if you forget the rules? You can always plug your answers in and see if they work. So let's say you totally forget. I don't remember how to tell yes or no. All you have to do is stick this in here. If it works, keep it. If it doesn't work, throw it away. All right. Get to work.